think that they will try to impeach a sitting Supreme Court judge once he sits at the court? Do you think they'll try an impeachment process?
No. I mean, if they were going to do something like that, they would have done that a long time ago when they did have the power to do so. I do want to go back to this idea of derangement syndrome, and that's what's being thrown at Donald Trump and at his nominees. I always find it laughable, you know, the people who talk about Trump derangement syndrome, these are the same people who to this day deny that Barack Obama was even born in America. These are the same people who refuse to even give a hearing to Merrick Garland. I mean, Merrick Garland wasn't even given the decency of getting this far in the process. You tell me who's suffering from derangement syndrome, but no, the Democrats would never.
But Brian, wouldn't you agree? Wouldn't you agree that for 8 years Barack Obama was given a complete free pass by the liberal media? I mean, he was just complete.
No, I would not agree.
Okay.
No, I would not agree with that. No, if you check ABC News, NBC News, CBS News, any scandal in the Obama administration, Benghazi was covered every night top to bottom. So no, I completely reject that.
Christopher, what would you say to that?
I mean, I tend to disagree. I think that, I mean, the press, I mean, if you just look at the headlines, the narratives, the way things are covered, to President Trump's credit, here's a guy who's been attacked from every which angle leading up to the election, at war with Republicans, with Democrats, and he won because people are so distrustful of the establishment of media and the way things are covered. And every single day it's a hit piece on him. Every single day it's negative media coverage. And I think it's finally backfired, whether it's CNN, people crawling into puddles and pretending like the storm is worse than it is. It's become so ridiculous. It's real.
I know.
Fake. It's that stupid. And so...
Oh, boy.
So I just think my
Tell me about it. I live in Russia, and I watch what CNN and MSNBC says about it. I mean, well, good fiction. No, bad fiction, I would say.
Could I just ask?
Go ahead, Brian. Brian, jump in because you're the odd man out. Go ahead.
When you have a presidential candidate, when you have somebody like Donald Trump calling Mexicans rapists, when you have somebody like Donald Trump cheating on 3 wives, having sex with a porn star.
That's been debunked many times. He's talking about criminal. He's talking about...
Donald Trump, excuse me, I'll finish, thank you. Donald Trump has admitted he paid hush money to Stormy Daniels. If you're going to call Mexicans rapists and have sex with a porn star,
then his attorney paid.
You might want to expect some negative headlines, guys. You might want to expect that.
Let me go to Robert, because Robert's a lawyer.
But Bill Clinton was good to go.
All these things. Look, I think even his supporters, Donald Trump is no choir boy. They didn't vote for him because they thought he was a choir boy. He's rude, he's boisterous, he's an egotistical maniac sometimes, but none of these things are illegal, and none of these things have to do with anything with policy. That's what I'm interested in, is policy. I personally would like to see a conservative judge on the Supreme Court because I like those policies, but the Democrats don't talk about any of those things. Robert.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got away from sort of policy principle debates and have become enamored and enmeshed in very much personality debates. And often, frankly, that's good terrain for Trump. I mean, Trump's belief is that if he's dominating the news, he's winning the news, no matter what the nature of those news is. So I think they've sort of got into the reality TV environment where they've lost a sense of perspective and in the process lost their sort of long-term institutional and intellectual edge that they could have with the American electorate in the process. So they've gone from being people who wanted to be the highbrow professors to being the Jerry Springers of politics. And I don't think that's ultimately in their institutional interest.
That's fair.
And I think they should re-examine that.
That's very, very... Brian, do you think that there's going to be a backlash against this campaign against Kavanaugh? Do you think that that might be a reason for Republicans to go out and vote?
I don't think there's going to be a backlash, no. I think the Democrats are going to retake the House. There are polls out this week indicating that a majority of Americans right now don't feel very good about the Kavanaugh nomination. I think it's going to backfire with Democrats with the same people it would have backfired with them anyway. I mean, the fact of the matter is, look, they are playing obstructionism. Yes. I mean, that's of course what they're doing. They're trying to delay this nomination through the midterms. That's politics. You know, when people ask, why did it take so long for them to bring these allegations to the table? Well, obviously, yes, they're waiting till the last minute to try to screw the Republicans. I I think it's only going to help their cause with their base. And right now, it looks like most independents are not exactly enamored with Brett Kavanaugh.
Christopher, all I can say to that is that what about the polls in 2016 and the polls today? Why should we believe the polls now?
First of all, we just have to thank Brian for telling the truth right there. What he just said is what Senate Democrats won't say, which is that they waited to the last minute to try to pull that. I think it's really interesting to see. But did anyone else find it odd that the attorneys were working pro bono or that they were covering polygraphs? I've been searching my whole life, Peter, for attorneys that work pro bono. So thank goodness we've actually found attorneys that are just so honest and they're so great they work for free. I need their number because last I checked, I know lots of innocent people that have been working with attorneys and it bankrupts the average American. So I feel like Americans just don't trust the process
But I think
anymore.
if you had Deborah Katz as your attorney, she would make sure you were convicted of the most heinous crime, even if you didn't do it. All right, gentlemen, we've run out of time. Many thanks to my guests in Washington, Los Angeles, and in Chattanooga. And thanks to our viewers for watching us here at RT. See you next time. And remember, crosstalk, please.
See that alpaca? That was me. Someone like casinos treated me unfairly.
Typical.
Then I discovered a fair casino that pays all bonuses in cash. And now I've found my Ojo. Find your Ojo at playojo.com.
When I first started the business, it was just me and a truckload of oranges. But as things grew, I knew I needed help. So I went to peopleperhour.com and found the right freelancers for the job. I needed a logo designer, I needed a web developer, I needed someone who actually understands numbers. I had a dream and People Per Hour helps me live it.
People Per Hour. Live your work dream. Use code ORANGE1 for your first hour free.
Motorama says stop buying cars. Motorama says stop spending more than you want. Motorama says stop paying eye-watering deposits. Motorama says stop buying. Start leasing. With Motorama, you can lease a brand new Mercedes A-Class for just £269 a month. Go to Motorama.com. You'll never buy a car again.
If you've thought about buying gold or silver bars and coins, it's so easy to buy direct, safely and securely from Direct Bullion. With fast and free, fully insured delivery on UK orders, and all parcels discreetly packaged and delivered to your door. Direct Bullion aims to provide a gold standard customer service with glowing 5-star reviews and a top recommended precious metals dealer by the Spears 500. Go online or call 0800 055 7050 to receive our expert guide to buying gold or silver.
I've been saying the numbers mean something. They matter. The U.S. is over $20 trillion in debt. More than 10 white-collar crimes happen each day. 85% of global wealth belongs to the ultra-rich, 8.6%. Markets saw a 30% rise last year, some with 400 to 500 trades per second. And Bitcoin rose to $20,000. China's building a $2.1 billion AI industrial park. But don't let the numbers overwhelm you. The only number you need to remember is one. One business show you can't afford to miss. The one and only Boom Bust.
Civil war in Africa's newest country claims close to 400,000 lives, according to a U.S.-funded report, prompting the question, where has the initial support for South Sudan gone? Also ahead. America's NATO ambassador scrambles to clarify herself after She threatened Washington would take out Russia's missile stockpile, accusing Moscow of violating a major Cold War-era treaty. A struggle between empathy and law unfolds in Italy as a pro-refugee mayor is placed under house arrest for illegal immigrants. And the People's Republic of Jamjar, a prominent Conservative Party politician in the UK, is under fire after making that insensitive quip about Libya. All right, broadcasting live direct from our studios in Moscow, this is RT International. I'm Sean Thomas. Certainly glad to have you with us. Now, the number of deaths from the civil war in the Central African nation of South Sudan has reached almost 400,000. That was revealed in a damning new report that says the figure is almost 8 times higher than previously thought. It is also a long way away from the hope that surrounded the country's Declaration of Independence in 2011. The U.S. was quick to support Africa's newest nation then, but how long did that help continue? RT's Caleb Maupin comments.
South Sudan is the youngest country in the world, and according to a new report from the U.S. State Department, it's off to a pretty bleak start. Almost 400,000 people killed, half of them killed in the conflict, the other half dying of hunger and disease. Now, previously, prior to this report, the estimates had only been in the tens of thousands, but now it looks like the numbers of deaths in South Sudan are approaching the number that have died in the conflict in Syria. Pretty bleak, but it wasn't always like this. Now, in the 1990s, there was no South Sudan. Sudan was one country, and it was embroiled in the longest-running civil war in the continent. However, there were some perks. At that point, Sudan had lots of oil to sell, and China was pouring in investments. And that is when the sanctions rolled in. Sudan was declared to be a state sponsor of terror. Bill Clinton bombed a factory in 1998 that he said was making chemical weapons.
Our forces also attacked a factory in Sudan associated with the bin Laden network. The factory was involved in the production of materials for chemical weapons.
But actually, the factory was just making medicine. No evidence of chemical weapons has ever been produced. Now, the USA pushed for South Sudan's independence. In 2011, the USA hailed South Sudan for breaking away and becoming a new country.
We warmly welcome the Republic of South Sudan into the community of sovereign nations.
But the euphoria did not last long.
It breaks my heart to see what South Sudan has become today.
The country fell into a civil war between rival clans. The president turned against the vice president, and mass killings and hunger ensued. And all this killing was a headache for the United Nations. So, with a new administration now in the White House, the U.S. role in South Sudan is being reassessed.
The United States government will not continue in a partnership with leaders who are only interested in perpetuating an endless war characterized by ethnically motivated atrocities. The government of South Sudan has lost credibility, and the United States is losing patience.
Yes, South Sudan is yet another example of the U.S. State Department telling us that they're going to go rescue some poor oppressed people on the other side of the planet. And then they're left spending money to analyze results, showing that the conditions overall are getting a lot worse.
To an extent, the world seemed to have forgotten about South Sudan. Not too long ago, it was the world that was rallying together to form this new nation, then at the expense of northern Sudan, which was run by Bashir. And it would appear that petty politics between the Chinese and the US in terms of their respective influences on those countries have meant that, for now at least, the world seems to have forgotten about the Sudan crisis, seems to have forgotten about the displacement of people, women and children, and displacement of children across the nation, and it's very much an impoverished state. And of course, we know that a lot of things do not work effectively in South Sudan, and for all intents and purposes, the West and the international community seems to have turned a blind eye.
Russia claiming they are in breach of a Cold War-era treaty.
Well, the countermeasures would be to take out the missiles that are in development by Russia in violation of the treaty. So that would be the countermeasure eventually.
All right, commenting on the ambassador's statement, the Russian Foreign Ministry's spokeswoman said that public officials should be more careful when it comes to aggressive rhetoric. More details now from RT's Nikki Aaron.
Well, it's essentially a warning from Moscow. The US envoy to NATO, Kay Bailey Hutchinson, has said if Russia does not put a stop to its covert development of a banned cruise missile system, then the US will seek to destroy it before it's operational. The US believe that Russia is working on a ground launch system that would have the ability to launch a nuclear strike on Europe on short notice. Now, the development of such a system would be in breach of a Cold War treaty. This is the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. It was signed by President Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev in 1987. Now, while Ambassador Hutchinson said that the US favors